experiencing technical difficulties, but you're not.
We hope.
Welcome to the Wednesday Club.
Welcome to the Wednesday Club.
It's entirely possible that we're just talking to empty air and that we're just in a warehouse and they're just going to like quietly lock the doors and leave us in.
We are being punked.
I needed that. Thank you. I don't know why I needed that, but it made me happy.
How are you guys today?
I'm really good today. I'm having a very nice day.
Well, I wonder why.
I don't know why.
You can say why.
Can I?
I think you can say why.
Well, there. I got a really nice piece of fan art today. That was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want it to expand on that? While Amy and I over here dying about it.
Already dead.
She already.
Yeah, she's already dead. This is the ghost of Amy.
I was driving and I was like told about this while driving and it was not. It was not appropriate. Yeah. Thank you, Fiona. Yeah. If anybody wants to go. I'm not going to show it now because I don't have permission to show it. So
yeah,
we wanted to make sure it's kosher, but
yeah, we got some really nice. But you can say, yeah, Fiona Staples did a really cool Molly Mock. Hey, we have a monitor.
Unbelievable
piece of art that's making me go. Oh boy,
you're living your best life right now.
This is you're the dumbest game of D&D ever.
You're now in Saga.
I'm now in
ish.
I'm now in Saga-ish.
You're Saga adjacent.
I also a couple of us showed up in Kid Lobotomy this week too. There's a whole bunch of people who
Danny Carr's in it. Lauren Ipsum, Sam DeLev.
Lauren Ipsum shows up and is going away, and like Erica and I are evil medical people. It's fun.
Yeah, I saw that and was like, well, I think we're all winning. I think we're all winning at life.
Yeah.
Other snuggy things. Oh wait, they can see this now.
Oh yeah, there we are.
Chief.
Are we okay?
Yeah.
Look at all those comics. That's an awful lot of comics.
Yeah, this happened. Whose idea was this again? Was this your idea? Was this?
I think we collectively agreed at some point during the course of the show that obviously we should talk about Fables.
And today became that day.
Yeah, this is a really amazing. Okay, here's how I'm going to start this. This is not the original cover, but this is the alternate cover to a certain issue that if you were picking up comics in 2002 and just cruising by your local store, you might read this wonderful little issue 1. And at the back, you'd have a little editorial called "Welcome to Fabletown," or "Why Do We Need New Stories with These Old Characters?" by Bill Willingham. Who goes into an account of sort of looking at fairy tales and how he feels about them, et cetera, introduces his collaborators, you'll want to write letters about this series, and we want to read and respond to them. I love this. Since Vertigo Comics no longer have letter pages, and since most of us, even a neo-Luddite like me, has a computer with an internet connection, it's 2002, most, we're going to have a letters page anyway, online. So then he directs people to his website, et cetera, That's about it for now. The artists, editors, publishers, and myself would like to thank you for trying us out for at least this first issue. And we invite you to return again each and every month for a new issue of Fables. If you stick with us for a while, we're confident you'll be with us for a long time to come. It should be a fun trip. 150 issues, over 100 issues of spin-offs, several original graphic novels, repeated optionings, and a video game with a forthcoming sequel later.
Yep. It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I see Ken Wynn hanging off to the side. Ken Wynn. It looks amazing, and this is original. This is like This is a Ken Wynn original.
Yeah, we.
Is the W for Wednesday? Were you inspired by Mark Buckingham's style to do a fancy W? He's not answering.
He's not answering. He's just staring. Yeah, no, it's a fancy. It's a
fancy W for Wednesday.
Yes.
Fancy W. You got a fancy W.
So the series developed visual signatures. 109 of those 150 main issues were illustrated by Mark Buckingham.
Oh boy!
I mean, they had amazing artists throughout, but he added a signature look to the series that it makes a lot of pieces from instantly recognizable.
Storybook. I feel like an old school illustration, illustrated from the 50s, 40s or 50s,
He manages to make it look very modern, but throw back to elements that cue your brain to fairy tales and illustration. I loaded in some examples for later, but we're kind of getting in deep.
I'm already in deep.
I'm so excited because this is such a deep mythology in its own, and it's one of those books that is so brilliantly contained in its own universe and is very. There are like smaller single books that are kind of their own thing, things like Bitch Planet or things like Why the Last Man. But this sort of swelled to become its own brand in a weird level.
And I'll guess I'll get this out of the way because I included this sort of to make fun of myself because I have no idea how to lay out information in a way that makes sense. But Chief, is there a graphic, a awkward cell phone picture of this chart that I loaded in?
No.
Really? Did the images not come through today?
Not that one.
Okay, well, we'll
do it the old-fashioned way.
Even worse than a cell phone picture of this chart.
Just walk up to the camera.
Yeah, this was me making a map of Fables.
We apologize that it's not legible, but we assure you that even if within a close-up,
did you see that transition?
Legible.
That was awesome.
That was amazing.
So
Chief is
up
killing
here
it
is
today.
2002. You've got the book Fables, which begins and goes for 150 issues until 2015.
Oh, there's some Jack of Fables.
Yep, Jack of Fables runs for 50 issues over here. The Literals runs for 3 issues. That's the crossover. Cinderella gets 2 short miniseries.
They're great.
Fairest gets a 33-issue series. Jack of Fables, not Jack of Fables, Wolf Among Us adapts the video game. Ever After runs for another, 12 issues. And all of these small things also happen at the same time. This is what I had to do to try to get a scope of the blossoming universe. I was advised that it might be better as like a tree. It starts in 2002 and it grows into an empire.
That's some good advice.
Yep. So failed attempts at chart making aside, what are we looking at here?
Well, I was about to. Yeah, go ahead. If you've got a word,
I'm sorry. No, our producer Liz reminded us that we have Daily Wednesday. That we need to jump into first. We got so excited about Fables.
We got so excited that we jumped the gun.
I did.
We did. That's okay.
And that's okay. Excited. That's okay.
I appreciate Liz's new digital version of marker on signing.
Yeah.
We have the Daily Wednesday. We actually are supposed to. We have a letter column this week.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah. Let's go to the Daily Wednesday.
Let's go to the Daily Wednesday.
Chief.
Are they these? Is that?
You're in it.
We're in it.
Oh,
yes.
there's a
Technical difficulties.
Oh, okay.
That'll do.
Excellent.
Act out the calendar. It's always Wednesday.
Wednesday every day.
Woo!
Oh, you get the first one.
May I begin?
Please.
All right, this letter is from Cody. The title of this letter is Bill Gaines and the Wednesday Club created a great conversation with my mom.
What?
I'm very excited. Haven't read this yet.
I'm excited to hear this.
Hi, Amy, Matt, and Taliesin. Hello.
Hello.
In your recent Comics Code episode, you told some awesome stories about Bill Gaines. It made me vaguely remember a story my mom told me years ago. I decided to ask her about it, and we had a really enjoyable conversation about that time my uncle took her to meet his girlfriend's boss in New York City. Turns out his girlfriend worked as a nanny for Bill Gaines. In the late 60s, my mom got to tour the MAD offices, meet several of the people working there. She remembers watching a female artist work and staring at the King Kong behind Gaines's massive desk. And then Gaines took the whole group to the 21 Club and bought her the first lobster dinner she'd ever had. What an awesome story. Thank you for sharing your passion for comics and giving me the opportunity to connect with my mom.
Oh my God, that's the best.
Your mom sounds so cool.
That is the
60s
best.
New York adventures.
And it's a story that ends with lobster.
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 Let's say it in English. Lobster.
Lobster.
That's a
Thank you,
great
Cody.
story, man.
That's a fantastic story.
Thank you for sharing.
That's oh man, I've never wanted to be someone's mom before.
All right, we have one here from Matt. Not you, other Matt. Dear Amy, other Matt, and Taliesin, I added the other.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I am simply writing to let you know of my immense appreciation for the Wednesday Club. It is a great pity that from down here in New Zealand, I should change, this is a terrible New Zealand accent.
You're committed now.
Keep trying, buddy.
Your
Keep
show
trying.
airs in the mid-afternoon on Thursday, when by all rights I need to be working. That's fine that you don't. We give you permission.
we
not
give
to
you
work.
permission.
Nevertheless,
If we need to
I'm
write you
usually
a letter, we will.
able to watch the show on VOD within a couple of hours of it airing, and it is always a highlight of my week. Oh, thank you very much. You continue to demonstrate that nerdy fandoms are at their best when they are positive celebrations of the thing we enjoy. You're catching on. At a time when it is far too easy to find relentless negative discussions on comics and other pop culture, this show provides a welcome relief. You've literally, that is the game. You've given the game away. That's what we're doing. That's fair. I'm into that. I'm currently in the last few weeks of writing my master's thesis in forensic sciences.
Oh my God.
Shit.
You're an actual adult.
And the three of you, along with the rest of the excellent people at Geek and Sundry, are definitely helping it make the final month a little less stressful process. I always manage to learn new things, and the wide-ranging nature of many interesting tangents of your discussions could not be more suited to my interests. I feel you there. Continue being relentless forces of positivity and good in the world, and inspiring us to be the best versions of ourselves. Regards, Matt of the world of Matts. They are everywhere, apparently.
Does it say that?
Matt, we are everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah.
Matt, we are Legion. We are everywhere.
It's coming next month. Ah! Sorry, I just got my first ad for the new Legion, so I'm excited.
Oh, is it good?
I don't know. I just got an ad, but the ad was good.
I haven't seen it.
I follow them on Twitter.
Thank you, Matt. That's amazing. and congrats on being like an actual adult.
Yeah.
Forensic science is
It's a Matt
awesome.
world.
It's oh my God, that's so good.
That's a deep reference.
Chief,
Well done,
way
Chief.
to go, man.
Well done.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And the world needs more forensic scientists. That's great. And
It does.
And I would love to see New Zealand one of these days.
Well, I would love that. And we glad that everyone is catching on that like positivity. Nerddom is.
It feels good.
Is the best nerddom.
It feels good.
We don't need to tear each other down when we don't know things.
I don't want to hear about things I don't want to read.
Yeah.
I want to hear about things I do want to read.
Well, like in my rule is like admit your ignorance. Like if you've never read something, don't like no. Yeah. Grant Morrison's Superman.
Is that your thing?
Oh, I always admit ignorance.
I did not know that.
Oh, every time.
I was just trying to do it. Yeah, never mind. That was the thing. Yeah.
I'm late.
I'm giving Matt an email.
Yeah. I have arrived at that joke.
That was such a. I need to workshop that more. It was not ready. It was not ready.
All right. This is from. This is labeled to read as last. This is from Sabrina. Sabrina.
Hopefully becoming a TV show soon.
Yeah.
Really? Because did you see the casting for the aunts?
No.
They are casting the aunts.
Yeah.
Lucy Davis and
Miranda
Eowyn.
Otto.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Oh no.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw a picture of Miranda Otto to just like a picture that they chose for the Hollywood Reporter today. It was like, and she's in Sabrina, and I was like, oh my God, she's perfect.
I'm so excited.
Okay, sorry. Please continue.
Your name.
In parentheses, I don't know the procedure, but this can totally be read on air. Mostly wanted to show gratitude. That's close parentheses.
Aw.
Dear Matt, Amy, and Taliesin, hello. Or exclamation point. Hello! My name is Sabrina, parentheses, directly named after Sabrina Spellman, close parentheses, and this is just a babble of thanks and appreciation for all the things you three do. Like most of us, I've always been overly passionate. I embraced my namesake at a young age and totally immersed myself in the world of the weird and fantastical.
Yes.
The day my sister and I opened a cardboard box to discover my uncle's old Batman comics, there was no going back. We became full-out nerds. Up until recently, I was a very happy geek. After moving out to start school, I hoped I would find even more people who liked the things I did. But I just found myself toning down my passions to seem more desirable. It seems so silly, but I just wasn't finding the nerdy community I thought I would. The people I ran into couldn't see me as both a nerdy enthusiast and a traditional makeup hoarding styled hair girly girl. It felt really cliche and frustrating. While the people I surrounded myself with did not share or understand my passions and did lovingly tease me about how freaky they thought my Bill Sienkiewicz. Why can
Sienkiewicz.
Thank you. Art on my walls looked. My roommate was always down for being seriously nerdy. My roommate has now moved back to her hometown, 5 hours away from where we were living. After her initial period of moving out and me adjusting to living on my own, I spoke to almost no one. I became very routine, woke up, went to class, went to work, went to bed. I let go of even the small things that got me excited, like picking up comics at the shop down the street and even watching the Wednesday Club. On a whim, about a month ago, I noticed I was free on one Wednesday night and decided to check up on the show. It sounds ridiculous, but I felt immediately better to see you all just so excited. The next day, I started a conversation with a stranger about his D&D shirt and then connected with lesser-known acquaintances to watch movies. It's been slow, but I'm really trying to connect with more people. I found even the most unsuspecting people are into pretty cool stuff as well. I think I've been struggling with depression and periods of isolating myself for a long time.
Yeah.
After the discussion of acknowledging good and bad brain days last week, I felt really motivated. Thursday morning, I set up my first therapy appointment in 5 years. I know I have a lot of mental health to work on, and that work and support are going to come in from a variety of places, but your show has given me something that has really helped. I think I was afraid to be myself, to like the things I really like, to feel sad sometimes, but as you three and shows like the Wednesday Club that makes things a little easier. Thank you, Sabrina.
That's so nice. I'm a little teary.
Oh my God.
I know. That's a little much.
Sabrina, that means
Sabrina, that's amazing. And good for you. That's hard.
Yeah.
Oh.
Congratulations. Oh man, it takes a lot to acknowledge good and bad brain. No one likes Brad brains, except for Brad's. Strangely, always
Thank
know.
you for writing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That like has us all like
A little, yeah.
I had a quick story. I had a roommate when I first moved out here. I won't say his name, but he and I, in the privacy of our apartments, would get tremendously nerdy. Like, I mean, he couldn't afford comics the way I could, so like I would share them with him, but he would spend days and days on Wikipedia just reading up on everything, and then we would talk about it. And there was one time where we went out just with some friends, and there was a girl there that he really kind of liked, and I was like, oh my God, did you read the newest whatever it was? And he's like, what are you doing? Shh. I was like, what? And he's like, not when we're out. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, I don't need people to know that I'm into like all that nerdy shit. And I was like, dude, you're actually depriving yourself of being who you are. And like, I kind of pulled him aside and called him out on it. And he's like, dude, I'm sorry, I'm just not comfortable with it. And it was at that point that I realized I'm never going to do that. Like, I'm always going to be the nerdy, dorky, passionate person that I am about the things that I'm passionate about. And just, if someone doesn't like that, then screw them, because that's who I am, and that's what I like, and that's what I want to. I'm not murdering someone. I'm not like stealing things from people. I'm just like.
It's like Dirty Dancing, but with being nerdy. It's nerdy dancing.
Nerdy dancing.
Sorry, that's.
So
this is what you brought us to, Sabrina.
Nobody puts Matt Key in the corner.
Wow.
Wow, that really came together. That came together. Wow.
So the moral of the story that I'm trying to tell you, Sabrina, is
nobody puts Matt Key in the corner.
Don't put me in a corner, Sabrina. I embraced who the person that I thought that I was and was becoming. And now I host a nerdy comic book show with two of the nerdier people that I know, and they're like two of my dearest friends. And like, so do that. Continue to do that. And it's also important. Sorry, soapboxing a little bit, but acknowledge the bad brain days and the good brain days. Like, don't be afraid to do that, because like that's where the healing starts, and that's how you can push like. You know.
And we know it's not easy, and we would be lying if we promised you it was easy. But
we have them too.
Like, but that letter is so inspiring, because the little steps that you are taking to sort of set yourself up are like.
Oh, therapy is so good. Good therapy.
Yeah, legitimately.
It takes a couple rounds to get a good therapist, and once you do,
and very much continue to go to therapy. Therapy is one of the best things that I've ever.
Oh yeah, that keeps me alive.
I go every 2 weeks, and it's the best. It's the best.
Just so good.
All right, before we move on, we have Modern Chow fan art. Can we just like?
How do you say these things? Like they just? Oh, whoa!
This is so amazing.
You've seen this, right?
No, I heard about it. I've been kind of on a Twitter sabbatical, because I needed to get my speaking of bad brain days, I've been needing to like get my emotions in check. But wow.
Did you not? It's the best.
I'm only like 2 days back I'm only like a day and a half back into Twitter, because I just finally saw Black Panther.
Look, it's the old campaign.
And the new campaign.
Oh, look, you're Storm? How's it feel to be Storm, buddy?
I feel like I haven't earned that honor yet.
Look, little cat.
Deadly campaign.
Oh man.
And at the very top.
Whoa!
How awesome is that?
Approved by the Wednesday Club.
That's so good.
Yeah,
the banner on the side says, "How do you want to do this?"
Does it really? I didn't see that.
Man.
Part.
Oh man.
It's very well done. Very, very well done.
I'm glad to be back to Twitter.
Those who remember our X-Men episode will note that that is a parody of the classic giant size X-Men cover #1, which introduced all of the new X-Men at the time, which is Storm and Wolverine and Nightcrawler and Colossus, and Cyclops is in both pictures because he's in the new team too. But they are bursting out of the pages of the old one, and I love it because it's such a perfect choice for you guys. Because those old X-Men didn't stop being classics or loved by anyone.
No.
But we also wouldn't want to imagine life without the new X-Men.
Yeah.
So
Bam!
It's okay.
Bam!
So good.
Every week it's like I hit day 6. I'm like, I've missed you.
Yep. Yeah.
I like that you number your weeks in a certain way.
Dallen Day is the beginning of the week. Every Wednesday is. Dallen Day is where the week begins.
We were day 6 because the end week begins and ends tomorrow.
Well, it's tough because I've never had an actual real job. Wow, that sounds weird, but it's true. I've never actually had a traditional job, so it's always just more sort of been the moment where everything becomes better, and then slowly the weeks degrades into madness.
Fair enough.
So
I count Wednesday to Wednesday. So
yeah, Wednesday to Wednesday, and it's always
Wednesday's the start of the week.
We literally used to call it going to church. Every Wednesday.
True enough. True enough. Thank you for the letters.
Thank you.
Are we
doing that now? We can do that now.
That great prompting from off screen, which we're talking to because we love to be subtle.
So yeah.
We're very good at this.
I'm
television professionals.
I'm a deep believer that this is our brand is kind of being off, not quite that good.
So I can keep making my charts like this.
I wish that you would.
Color coding would help. I
don't want to see anything other.
We're gonna get you one of those pens that you flick for 4 different colors.
Oh, those were my favorite pens when I was a kid. Did you ever have the one that had 16?
Yeah, but it was too thick to hold properly.
No, since I was a giant from. Actually, I wasn't. I was born very tiny, but I grew into a giant very quickly.
Like the Mary Poppins song, yes.
Yes.
Your daughters were smaller than you, then they grew.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but because I was a giant, the pens have always even
tiny.
when I was in
that 16 color
they've
one
always fit relatively well in my hands.
I feel like I'm using. Speaking of CR Comics,
Liz, are you having fun with those signs? Yeah.
We gotta get you a tablet.
A lot easier than
Yeah, you should have a tablet.
Take 2 tablets. So CR, the digital comic for CR, is getting a real printing, and I may or may not have stolen this from the marketing department earlier today.
Yay!
Which they will yell at me when they find out that I did, because there's only 2 in the building.
Nobody tell them.
Thankfully, they're driving home during this show, so I think we're probably fine. But yes, we are getting a limited edition first issue of CR that I think they're selling at Emerald City Comic Con. For a very limited run.
Yes.
And the reason I brought this on, other than the fact that it's a beautiful comic book with beautiful interior art and all sorts of wonderful things, is this back page. And they didn't tell me that they were doing this. And yes, that is Laura Bailey, and that's great. And she is trying to sell you baked goods. But up at the top, and they didn't tell us that they were doing this, I just sort of found out that they put a Wednesday Club ad on the back of the comic.
I'm so excited about this.
And then our names are on the thing. And you can watch this at the thing.
I love they chose us all looking confused. It's so good.
It was so good, and it was the Grant Morrison episode.
And I don't understand why I'm making a weird duck face. What was I doing in that pic?
We were being confused by Grant Morrison.
Oh, is that what I'm doing?
Yeah, you're reading 7 Soldiers, and you're going am I reading this in the right order? This doesn't seem right.
Okay.
Because it's 7 Soldiers, and
it looked like I was doing that whole face where you're just like.
And you're reading Doom Patrol going, am I reading this in the right order? This doesn't seem right. And then I'm reading Invisibles thinking,
knowing that you're reading in the right order because you've read it a few times.
There is no right order. There's only Zool.
Now, don't be heartbroken if you can't get your hands on one of these. They chose a very small number for the run for probably really reasonable production reasons, but their collected editions of the books are still going to come.
There will be a collected edition that will be a real thing that people can get. But this is just like a con exclusive, which is a thing that happens. I think I'm only getting one. Yeah, there's only 1,000 copies, and I think I'm only getting one because
You're on the cast.
Well, we only found out about this 2 days ago, and I'm I want one. I literally think I texted you guys within 20 minutes of me finding out that this was a thing.
Oh my God.
So
cool. Before we move on, my little niece is writing.
Yes.
My lovely wife Brittany and me are getting a comic book from our 11-year-old niece. Because we sent her Squirrel Girl for Christmas and she read it and loved it.
Yes!
So she's writing you a comic?
So she's writing us a comic. We got
Look out, Axe Cop.
Yeah. So we're excited. Hopefully we'll get it soon, and hopefully she'll allow me to share it on the air. because that's what I would love to do that. And also, Mark, if you're watching, hi. Hi, I met a guy named Mark at Starbucks when I was reading Fables, and he talked to me and was like, that sounds like a fun show. I might watch it tonight. So, Mark, if you're watching, hi.
Okay.
All right. I'll stop talking.
What's up, Mark?
So
Amy,
speaking of a fun
Fables.
show.
what is Fables?
So
I got to do it for once. That felt good.
nice. So Fables is one of the all-time gateway comics, which is a thing I love about it.
Great way to say it.
Like, oh, is it ever though?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Like we discussed earlier, it started in 2002 as just another series in the long history of wonderful success from Vertigo. At the time, I believe Karen Berger was probably still head of Vertigo, but Shelley Bond was the editor on this book with Mariah Hayner, I don't know how to say your name, I'm so sorry, as assistant editor. And it was, by all accounts, an idea from Bill Willingham. Who'd had a long history in comics already, and assembled an art team. The initial artist was Lan Medina, and then as of issue 6, Mark Buckingham joins, who also had a long history with Vertigo, and who's just, he's real good. But just a murderer's row of other collaborators come on board as Bill Willingham tells the story of a bunch of fables. He takes fairy tale characters who are, for reasons we learn about over the course of the book, living in modern-day New York in secrecy. So this premise will sound somewhat familiar to folks who ended up watching, for instance, Once Upon a Time, which came around a few years later. We'll get into that eventually. But it's the first volume is called Legends in Exile.
Oh, yes.
And it introduces... and I'm extensively crediting interior artists, but I've forgotten to credit one of the other signature influences on like reasons for Fable's success. Well, the brilliant and amazing covers of James Jean.
The covers are so beautiful that they actually were eventually collected in their own book. You can actually just own the covers themselves.
You can. I think they need to do a new edition. It might be out of print. I put some James Jean in the folder. Are they? They should have been labeled James Jean 1 and James Jean 2. Gonna see if
any minute now. Oh, wow.
God, look at the face. Oh, Chief, you're so good.
His negative space use is amazing.
Yeah.
Although we've just changed dimension. There we go.
Yay! Okay.
Oh, God.
So this is
so pretty.
the wraparound cover for volume 3, I believe, probably taken from one of the issues.
There's a Bluebeard and a Bigsby and a Snow White.
So Snow White and a certain Bigby Wolf are two of the central characters that you follow throughout Fables. She is, as you meet her, she's the deputy mayor, assistant mayor of the tiny underground community of Fabletown, which occupies a well-concealed block on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, where they have lived for some time since escaping from their natural homes, which were various lands and kingdoms in the what are they called? The homelands.
The homelands, yeah. Sort of a pocket dimension.
Yeah, essentially like a series of interconnected dimensions which have all fallen under the domination of some, as we need it, some mysterious force known only as the adversary. So when we meet them, where you begin by dealing with kind of the everyday concerns of this community of fables, and a mystery kicks off. The first arc is a great little like whodunit kind of situation. We talked about this. We're going to really struggle with spoilers today because there's 150 issues. So it's really hard to talk about anything without ruining something.
It's 150 issues, and it's also it's a series that deals a lot in expectations.
Yeah.
And in subverting those expectations. And that is what makes it kind of difficult, is the very nature of these characters even existing often is by its own nature a thrill. And it's very difficult to take that from someone by describing too much of the story of the thrill of even...
When a character you recognize shows up unexpectedly, it's a huge joy because you're going to be surprised both that they arrive and by the form that they take in this version of the universe. Yeah. And we don't want to rob anybody of that.
And the genius, and I remember seeing Bill talk about this book many years ago at Comic-Con, and in sort of it's sort of a very humble throwaway form. He was like, well, I was just wondering, I was like, why has no one ever done a book with a bunch of public domain characters before? So I'm just going to do a book filled with public domain characters, which, I mean, which it is, and that is kind of ingenious on levels that we'll get into, that I'll certainly get into at some point. But one of the things that it means with these books is each of these characters, every time they introduce a character, there is an enormous amount of weight that comes with that character. It's like having Clint Eastwood show up in a movie, or Sean Connery walks into screen as the King of England in a Robin Hood movie, and you're like, it's the King of England because it's Sean Connery. You feel the weight of Sean Connery or Patrick Stewart
of Robin Hood.
Yeah, but there is something.
Nevertheless, as a child, I was just like, yes, he's very dignified. That makes perfect sense.
Makes perfect sense. Yes.
But and it'll come up in the book. It's like Wendy from The Wizard of Oz shows up, and immediately you're just like, oh God, Oz. Or Dorothy. I'm so sorry, wrong Wendy. I've done another issue. Dorothy shows up, and you're like, oh God, it's Dorothy. That means there's a Toto and a Scarecrow and all this and what. And I know this whole story. Is this story real, or is it like some bastardization of something more complicated that happened? And all of this, in just one panel, gets pounded down to you because you know all these characters.
And it is a particular skill that Willingham has, is to take your brain's capacity to say if A then B, and both satisfy and surprise it, like just over and over and over again.
And the corollary to what you're saying is that when Dorothy shows up, you're like, oh my God, so this like is Scarecrow, is Tin Man, like all that. But the other side of that is anytime you see a character that's talking to another character and neither one of the characters has been identified, you're just like,
who is that?
But who is that?
Who is that?
Like I don't want to say anything, but.
Well, and I feel if we're going to talk about,
I don't know how to say it because I don't want to spoil anything.
If we're going to talk about anybody,
in a way that suggests who you're talking about.
We got to talk about Bigby. We're just going to have to talk about Bigby. We're going to have to accept that we're going to talk about Bigby. We're not going to get to the end of Bigby. But Bigby Wolf is like such a good atypical.
He really is.
He's such a symbol of everything that makes this book good.
Yeah. So the person I'm talking about, who you learned the janitor is.
Oh.
I don't want to spoil anything. The very first time I saw the janitor, I was like, who's the janitor? And then when I found out who the janitor was, I was like, yep, I'm satisfied with this.
What I love about that is that they managed to surprise you with him over and over and over and over and over. And so this is a good time to talk about, I'm just going to segue from that into Fables is a mature audience book.
Yes.
It's interesting because I saw comments from Willingham and Buckingham, like especially towards the end of the run, they asked if they had any sort of regrets or things they would have done differently. And Willingham actually said he might have considered making the book all ages because he didn't think there was necessarily anything inherently about it that couldn't have worked that way. And early on, to be a Vertigo book, they were sort of like embracing swearing and violence and stuff. But here's the thing, the way his mind works, I'm not sure this ever could have been an all ages book.
No, and it's noir. I mean, like, if there's anything that this book really is, there's a lot of noir. And I don't think that you can translate a lot of these characters without the inherent violence of fables and fairy tales. There's a lot of violence and a lot of sex in fables and fairy tales, and there's no way to really do these characters justice.
So this actually,
knowing that there's a reason everybody's really fucking afraid of the big bad wolf.
Yeah.
You really need that mythic power of violence that exists in these characters. If anybody at home has like read Promethea, and when they go to Misty Magic Land, there's a long talk about that of these essential core creatures and how.
Well, and one of the things that's so fun about.
I'm going to comment just to chip in there. This is from the first issue, from a short column he wrote. So they're sort of saying, like, is the book dangerous? Is it subversive? And he goes, is it at least subversive? And he says, I don't think so, except to the extent that we've taken out the requisite show tunes and put back the sex, violence, horror, and human misery that were stripped out of these tales way back when.
Yep. Did your parents give you the Grimms and the Shock-Headed Peters and all of that when you were a kid, or did they give you like the more Disney-esque versions?
I mean, I got the more Disney ones just because like I was watching the movies and stuff like that. Like my mom and dad never got me like Grimm's fairy tales or anything like that. But my dad did tell me like they were darker when I was a kid. He was like, here's the story of Little Red Riding Hood, but the actual Grimm fairy tale is darker. So I remember hearing that from my dad and being intrigued by that and looking it up later myself and being like, ooh, that's dark. That's a much darker
one.
Yeah. I don't know Shock-Headed Peter. We had a Grimm's on the shelf, so we grew up both with Disney and with like some of the source
ones. I'm going to get you some Shock-Headed Peter, because Shock-Headed Peter is great.
One of my favorite things along the references that you're making is the very, very first page. When the cab pulls up and Jack jumps out, you can see they're on the corner of Bullfinch Street and Kipling Street. And
I didn't look it up. Who's Bullfinch?
Well, Bullfinch is mythology.
Bullfinch mythology.
Oh my gosh, of course.
You knew that.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew you knew that, but yeah, Bullfinch, yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I just love it. Yeah, I love
that as a kid.
You see, I didn't. I got that in college. It was like, oh my gosh, why have I never had this before? And
Who
then like
started establishing the sort of fairy tale types and giving them numbers and things?
Oh, what do you mean?
The
like
folklorists, when nowadays, or at least a certain set of folklorists classify worldwide stories in sort of like this is an L3, like a lost beans or whatever. That's not actually one.
Although that would be, I want a whole section on lost beans.
Well, I'm sure it's in there.
I don't know who started it.
Aesop's fables are numbered also.
They might be.
I think they might. Maybe that's just the.
The last time I delved really deep into any mythology was because some of our friends in the fairy nerds were asking me to research.
LOJ?
Well, no, they were asking me to research mermaids because they wanted to do a deep dive, and they're like, you know how to find weird shit. And I was like, sure. And I just did a deep dive. Yeah, it was Vanessa and Drew and those kids were like, what do you know about mermaids? I'm like, oh, let me see what I can find out.
Let me see what I can find.
Oh, so we should continue to explain the setup as we meet them at the beginning of the series Fables. There's sort of a small team that's kind of running things. Old King Cole, who is the mayor but does nothing.
Yeah.
Snow White, who is
not
really
the mayor
running
but does everything.
And Boy Blue, her sort of faithful assistant, as in Little Boy Blue, go blow your horn.
I've got the whole.
Got the poem right there.
So you know, there's an encyclopedia that you can buy, which is actually a list of every single character.
I don't have it, and it's
I didn't know it existed until you told me today, and I was jealous.
On page 38, Boy Blue, first appearance, issue 1, page 5, panel 5. Boy Blue is subject of the English nursery rhyme Little Boy Blue. Little Boy Blue, come blow your horn. The sheep's in the meadow, the cow's in the corn. But where's the boy who looks after the sheep? He's under the haycock, fast asleep. Will you wake him? No, not I, for if I do, he's sure to cry. First recorded in famous Tommy Thumb's Little Storybook, 1760-ish. Wow. Little Boy Blue became maybe a newer version of a much older folk song. In Fables, Boy Blue is the office clerk for Snow White, a veteran of the wars against... Boy Blue is instrumental in his downfall, and more things you do not need to know.
Yeah.
But through the series, he becomes one of my favorite characters.
Boy Blue is up there for me. Yeah. Jack is also up there for me.
Who's Jack?
So we never answered Bigby Wolf either, did we? Like,
he's the sheriff.
Oh, so is literally the big bad wolf.
And there's a picture in there of one of my very favorite shots, which you get pretty early on in the Land Medina run. I don't know how I labeled it. It might say Bigby Shadow. I should maybe write down what names I give the things.
The big bad wolf has become the cop because everyone's afraid of the big bad wolf.
Yeah.
And he is literally a wolf that takes on human form.
He's just having some tech difficulties with the board.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I can find it then. I bet it's
not hard to find a picture.
Yeah. Hold on.
And he's literally like a Chandler noir detective. Like he is trench coat and gristle.
Chain smoking. Tropes and this book are going to be a thing because mostly they're used brilliantly, and occasionally they are just used in like your mileage is going to vary on some, to be fully honest, I love this book, and there are moments where I'm like, okay, was that, okay. And yet because I desperately need to know what happens to these people in their lives, I love it anyway. Occasionally they'll make a joke about, how the Mundies, which is their term for mundane non-fables, they'll make a joke about how they run their government and, expected to care for them, and I'm like, okay. That's fine. So your mileage will vary on some of that stuff. I can't help it. I'm going to disclaimer everything. But
and we have established that the fables are all came from a fairyland, and now they're stuck in our world because the adversary
has taken
over. They don't want to be here. They're stuck in a small borough of New York, not even like a block.
And I think
then they've got the farm.
We can talk about the farm.
The farm is the second trade.
Tropes in a good way are the Chandler detective tropes with Bigby here.
Oh, here, let me help you.
And this panel, which I particularly love, and trying to block out the other page because it's extremely spoilery and graphic. I'm putting my hand right over it. I love this. Look at that. The shadow.
The shadow of the wolf. God, that's great.
So this is Snow and Bigby on their way to an early investigation. And thank you. Sorry. So this is a case where the tropes mostly work really beautifully with him.
Oh God, I guess we should also very quickly cover the farm. So the Fabletown, which is where they all live in New York, and there are people who don't live in Fabletown, but they kind of it's like where you have structure to take care of you. where you can get your magical items if you're somebody who needs some sort of magic to stay alive or to stay healthy. There's people who are under a lot of different curses.
Yeah, because one of the rules of Fables, Fabletown, is that you have to
maintain a human form.
Maintain a human form.
You can't let people know about the existence of Fables.
Oh my God, Shadow of the Wolf.
It might be a B-side. I'm going to look it up on Spotify tonight.
And you guys can also debate if this is spoilery, because I love the moment that you see it for the first time, but I did load in a picture of the farm, which if we don't have it up there.
I don't think it's spoilery.
This is in Volume 2, Animal Farm, which I'm going to find if Chief is still having trouble with the images.
Sorry guys, tech difficulty.
No.
I'm not going to be able to pull up images tonight.
Great, okay.
All right, good enough.
Give me Volume 2, please.
Where is Volume 2?
Also, Jack, I want to
we're going to get to Jack.
I distracted you from Jack. I just want to make sure.
We're going to farm, then we're going to
Jack.
Jack. Farms first.
Okay.
Let's do farm first.
So
God, look at that cover.
Yeah, this I also loaded in, and I'll just try to.
So
this is mine, so I can ruin this fine if I want.
If you're a Fable that doesn't look human, or if you're a Fable that can't afford a glamour to look human, you have to live on the farm.
Like one of the very first things when you meet Beast, like the very first frame you meet Beast in the very first issue.
As in Beauty and the Beast.
His charm has worn off, and they can't afford.
Okay, this is not a spoiler.
This is how they introduce the entire series. So actually, can we do like a page or so?
Let's do a page.
I think so.
Let's do a page.
And I actually wanted to.
Picture of the farm first, or page or two first?
Picture the farm first while you find a page.
Yeah, because we have at least 2 copies of number 1.
So you look for a page while I.
So first of all, Mark Buckingham, bless your dang talented heart. Inks by Steve Lealoa.
Any second now. There we go.
This is your first view of the farm. And sorry, I should have the deluxe editions with the even brighter paper and colors and things, but this is my old paperback version. And that man can draw his face off. He's so good.
The shoe.
So
it's all about the shoe for me. Yeah, the farm is really a fast. It's upstate. It's
upstate New York.
Upstate New York. It's in the hills. It's protected.
It's protected even from curiosity. There are spells that make normal people want to wander away from it. And I'm seeing some of those beautiful borders on there. I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
I wanted to read the Remembrance. They have something that they call Remembrance Day. It's like Christmas, and it's described as Christmas and 4th of July all rolled into one. And it's the day where they all founded this new Fabletown, where they're all going to get along and try to figure out how to get back to the homelands together.
Oh boy, Blue.
So I was gonna read
Blackbeard.
that because rereading it today, it gives a perfect summary of who they are, what they're trying to accomplish, and where they're trying to go.
Sure.
So if you'll indulge me for just a second here.
Totally.
This is
I can actually try to put it up while you're doing that if you want.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So this is page 79. It's the 4th book. I feel like I'm like chapter and verse of the Bible.
Book. Sorry, I forgot.
No, this is the first book.
Oh,
it's the fourth issue. Yeah, sorry. So this is King Cole reading at Remembrance Day. Once we were 1,000 separate kingdoms spread over 100 magic worlds. We were kings and cobblers, wizards or wood carvers. We had our sinners, our saints, and our blatant social climbers. And from the grandest lord to the lowliest peasant girl, we were, for the most part, strangers one to another. It took an invasion to unite us. Look, go to this one. Because this is this is a beautiful, oh my God.
And this has got to be Lan Medina at this point. Inks by Steve Lealoa, but he's the interior artist for this run.
You've got like the Tin Man, you've got some fairies, you've got, I think.
Sorry, double page spread not fitting in.
I'm moving.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'll stand still.
And then you've got like Baba Yaga there. Looks like Robin Hood, Maid Marian.
Will some of these people be seen again? Will they break your heart? It's Fables. They will.
Everyone will break your heart, yeah.
It's going to break your heart.
Took an invasion to unite us. Beyond the farther shores of Never, the adversary lived in a remote kingdom, ignored by other powers as his strength and ambitions grew over the long centuries. Some say he was a mere woodland sprite, while others claim he was once a god, thrown down from the vast heavens when his corruptions had become too great for his lofty brethren to tolerate. Whatever his true origins, he grew into a dark thing of infinite hunger. And after he'd conquered his own land, putting each of its former kings to the sword, he turned his unquenchable appetites in our direction. When the Emerald Kingdom fell, we tisk-tusked and tut-tutted in our homes. Sad for the fates of those unfortunate souls, but we weren't tempted to intervene. After all, they were always odd folks, and ever so far away. It wasn't our business.
Then the kingdom of the great lion fell, and again we did nothing, because we always found the old lion to be a bit too pompous and holier than thou for our tastes. And one
it's a really weird thing to write into your yearly speech, but I love it.
I know, right? And one by one our scattered lands fell under the adversary's dominion, swallowed up into his ever-growing empire. We had banded together early. We might have been able to stop him. By the time we realized that he wasn't merely interested in conquering that land or those people, that he was coming after all of us, it was too late. He'd grown too powerful. Many of us didn't have the chance to run. Some of us survived, too few alone, or in small groups over the span of many years or lifetimes. We hid and ran and avoided capture. We lived as outlaws and phantoms, and here, united by our common enemy, we learned to set aside old grudges. We forgave our many grievances to make covenant with each other. And now, predator and prey, prince and pauper, we are all of a single community, allied in our undying memory of the homelands and the unshakable determination that one day we will return to win those lands free of the hated one.
And can we just get a quick look at the big party to finish it off? The people listening to this? Because this is the other half of it, is watching them live in our world. These characters and seeing the, like... The great thing is when you read this in context, you will see, like, Prince and Pauper is a very pointed counterpoint to what's going on in the story right then. Yeah. Predator and Prey is a very pointed counterpoint. Coming together is a very interesting thing given the story events that are happening behind the scenes there, because it's also beautifully constructed. Do you guys want to read that Beauty and the Beast?
Oh, yeah. Which one was that?
Well, it's the opening for the very first issue of Fables.
Here, I'll let you read since I just read so much.
So let's see. Well, the opening really begins with actually the gentleman we're going to talk about in a bit. Just before Beauty and the Beast. They aren't actually the first page. They're like page 3. Page 1 actually does begin once upon a time in a fictional land called New York City. Which I think is a really beautiful opening. Mm-hmm. And then there's somebody hurrying in a taxi, and we don't really know what his deal is, but he's running into something called the Woodland Luxury Apartments, and he runs past the business office, labeled S. White, and into the security office of B. Wolf. And then he gives a nice, like, after those opening 3 pages of this mysterious blonde man, Jack, running in, we hop over to the business office. And the business office of S. White. So, as she says, the only problem that directly concerns this office is how beastly you look and have been looking recently.
It's not my fault. It's that ancient curse again. It disappeared when my wife agreed to marry me way back when, but now it cometh and goeth.
See? I told you he'd blame me.
I'm not blaming you, my sweet, but I seem to turn back into a beast to the extent that you're mad at me.
This would be easier, Lord Beast, if I could understand you better. He said that his curse reasserts itself to the extent that I become mad at him. But you try being married for almost 1,000 years without a few ups and downs along the way. No one can be perfectly, blissfully happy and in love for so long.
It's this residual period that's this problem. My fangs have grown, but in my mouth haven't grown big enough to fit them yet. So I suck, Fanny.
You're very good at this.
It's as if I do this, I know. It's literally something I do for a living.
She breaks down Snow White is sort of like, look, we have very limited options here. We can't afford to buy the expensive magics that would help you. We can't afford to give you counseling, and you can't wander around in the outside world looking like a beast, so figure it out.
Yeah, and literally there are chunks of the story where he becomes more and less human depending on how happy his wife is with him. It's literally...
Because there's a lot in the story of, like, if there is a fairy tale or a curse out there, Willingham is going to have fun with what that might mean.
Yeah.
Or
Pinocchio is a very unhappy little boy who's been a very unhappy little boy for thousands of years. And he is just sitting just like going, all I want is puberty. This is fucking bullshit. He is angry, cursing.
But he's so cute.
It's so cute. He's just tiny. And then
I love him in this.
Oh God, yeah. Well, we'll get into that. Oh.
Yeah.
So there's two men I want to mention.
So who's this guy? Yeah.
Which is Jack. Jack is a really interesting character. Jack is a big fan. Jack and Charming are the two that I really want to mention. Because there are two dastardly men in this universe, and Jack is one of them. And Jack is.
And you mean dastard in the right
dastardly?
Like.
Oh, I'm using this word entirely appropriately.
Yes, you are.
Jack is interesting because he's a shiftless layabout. He's always scheming. He's always trying to come up with the next.
What I love about Jack is that you can basically, he's one of the easiest to get an idea of based on the stories, because if you're like, which Jack? There's a lot of Jacks in fairy tales. The idea behind him is they're all him.
He's every Jack.
Beanstalk Jack, the Jack of the Tales, Jack making deals with the devil. They're
Nimble
all
Jack.
this Jack.
Nimble Jack.
Yeah.
Same with Big Bad Wolf.
It's always the
Little
same.
Red Riding Hood, Three Little Pigs.
He's got some history.
Yeah, and so he's pissed everybody off so far, and it's kind of the eternal loser. He's the Spider-Man. He wins, but he's just kind of never that much.
Oh, Jack?
Jack.
Well, that's because he's the opposite of Spider-Man. He's completely uninterested in responsibility ever.
And we'll drop it
he
at any
accidentally does the right thing sometimes. But he's pretty much always just trying to get the big score.
And then
but
you
he
have,
somehow makes it like endearing.
And then you have the worst person in the world, which is Prince Charming.
The worst!
Who is
He's the same
worst
Prince
person
Charming.
in
All
every
the Prince
story.
Charmings are him, which means he has burned every woman in Fabletown.
They all loathe him. They all hate him. He literally lives his life now. He just like goes amongst the mortal people, basically just shagging his way through the city, just being like, excuse me, but you have the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen, and I don't want to pay for this meal.
Just using his charm across the city.
Literally getting just women to buy him breakfast.
Yeah.
Just by like staring intently at
When
them.
we first meet him, I think Snow White is like, yeah, I know he's back in town. He burned through all the European royalty already.
Yeah.
In the spin-offs, did they ever do him burning his way through the European royalty?
He does a lot in they get into a lot of him being a terrible human, and he's somewhat redeemed eventually a little bit later.
What's interesting is they give him a lot to do, and he occasionally does come through, but he's sort of always like his essential nature doesn't.
He's entirely selfish. He'll never do anything that doesn't have something for him to gain immediately.
And he actually he is weirdly easy to combine with the prince from Into the Woods. My other favorite look at all fairy tales.
Man,
I was raised to be charming, not sincere.
One of the things that I found rereading the first issue and like remembering all the subsequent issues and some of the spin-off stuff is that it feels like this series deals with, in a lot of ways, with falling due to your character defects and then redeeming yourself, but continuing to then fall again. Like, it felt like this took a very realistic look at, like, there's almost this realistic look at the nature of redemption and how it doesn't necessarily change the core essence of a person, but is still something that all of them are capable of achieving. Because, like, I don't want to say what happens, but, like, there's a big fight in Fabletown, and Charming, like, really stands up to it. Like, yes, there's things to be gained for it, but he really does turn himself into a hero a bit, if I remember correctly. So
well, and there's it's fascinating how they deal with characters like Blackbeard, and they deal with characters like Charming and
Bluebeard. You mean
Bluebeard, not Blackbeard. Sorry, wrong. I was talking pirates earlier. So.
Of course you were. Just another Wednesday with Taliesin.
Yeah, there was somebody visiting. We were talking pirates. I know I'm just going through, like, I'm not even going through the issues. I'm going through we can't talk about Rose Red. Nope. And we can't talk about Pied Piper. There's like a lot of people we can't talk about.
So the first person to get their own, like, I didn't write down which issue of Fables it would have been, but in late 2006, when the book had been going for about 4 years, they'd been going for 4 years. They'd had one sort of oversized one-shot called The Last Castle, which you don't have to worry about. It's collected inside the books, and will break your heart. Do you remember which one that is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So, and let's see. So in late 2006, the first of the spin-offs comes around, and that is
a certain
right? Jack of the Tales. I think I have a number 1 here somewhere.
Jack of Fables. Oh, and by the way, while we're looking for the correct Jack of Fables, you should probably. This is a great time to start thinking about your topic that you would like to hear at the tail end of the show today. So our 15-minute topic, which we do every time.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah,
are we not upping it to 15?
No, we're not upping it to 15 mark. We're not upping it to a 5-minute dissertation.
I have way too much sugar in my coffee today.
Let's see. There's so many great covers for this book. This ran 50 issues. It was co-written by Bill Willingham, and this is just a note for you guys to have at home. It is co-written by Bill Willingham and Lila Sturgis. Do not be confused by the name. You're looking for Sturgis. Her name is Lila.
And what I really enjoyed about this is by getting Jack out of the city. They delved in fact, I believe it's the name of several of the issues. Americana is delving into American folklore and the myths and legends that are more native, less to our European ancestors and more
one of
like
the distinct
homegrown
things about Fables, and one of the sources of valid criticism that it has taken, is that the majority of its source material is specifically European folktales. There are exceptions, absolutely.
Well, I think they figured that out eventually.
Yeah, it is centered in and mostly concerns European, what the authors would consider traditional European fairy tales. And Jack takes gets into a lot of cool American stuff, and you do get other parts of the world sort of showing up eventually, especially in the spin-offs later.
You get a little 1001 Arabian Nights. You get a little bit of some of the Chinese mythology. We get a little, actually,
that's right.
Something popped up in Cinderella that really blew my mind.
Oh, that was so good.
That really blew my mind, which kind of maybe I'm trying to find it again. It'll be 1 second.
Is that in you said in the Cinderella?
I'm pulling it up right now.
But yes, I love the headlines for the Jack of Fables volumes are amazing. Let me see how many of them I can find. So, Jack of Fables Volume 4 Americana, folks just seem to cotton to Jack of Fables. Jack of Fables Volume 1, no one deserves his own collection more than Jack of Fables. Number 5, Turning Pages. There's a lot about books in these, and I love it. Not even Sam Colt could make you equal to Jack of Fables. In Volume 3, The Bad Prince, uneasy rests the crown on the swollen head of Jack of Fables. Who would, of all of these fables, maybe most enjoy knowing that he got the spin-off that lasted the longest?
Yeah. And it's a good read, and and the Cinderella books, and sadly I don't want to give away Cinderella's kind of interesting conceit in this universe because it is fabulous.
Yeah.
I forgot that she meets Anansi, the spider god.
Oh.
And
really? I didn't read that
Anansi, the spider god, and ironically, for anybody who's a fan of American gods,
that's
Anansi
awesome.
is a lovely young black man in a very well tailored suit again.
Amazing.
There's some iconography that really kicks in very well there.
That's
so the next
awesome.
of the spin-offs to happen was, not counting the 3-issue Literals series that just was a crossover between Jack, Fables, and a third book. They made up just for that. The next to happen was 2 6-parters for Cinderella, which were drawn by, I want to say, Sean McManus.
Oh, I have a button for that. And you'd think they would lead that here, but for some strange reason.
Written by Chris Roberson, who you might also remember as the writer of iZombie.
It doesn't say the artist because it doesn't like me that way. Hold on.
Interesting.
I know, it's the first time I've ever hit this button and it went like, I don't care what you want to know. Normally Comixology is very good about this, but for once they're being a little difficult with me. Here, I'm going to have to scale all the way. Here we go.
It's all the other credits. You need the title page. They're going to show you all the VPs and things. Give us a moment. Nope, that was the... Where are your credits?
I know, this is like the least credited book I've ever seen.
Did I bring any Cinderella?
Oh, there we go.
Sean McManus.
Sean McManus.
All right.
That was enduringly hard to find. That was
Sorry, guys. Comics.
Yeah. God, it's the only problem with digital is, boy, you got to flip. But yeah, if you're a fan of kind of they go all over the world. It's exciting.
There's a bit of globe trotting.
There's some globe trotting, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm not gonna. Again, it's hard not to spoil. The Jack of Fables Americana stuff is a lot of fun, especially if you're a fan of things like Paul Bunyan and some of the old train folklore and
a lot of tall tale kind of influence there.
So can we?
I have a friend who's obsessed with Babe, so I'm always a fan of.
Can we talk briefly, doing our best to not give any spoilers, but the Jack of Fables crossover,
which is called the Great Fables crossover,
where
wow, look at that! You just pulled it right out of there.
One. I don't know. It just stands out.
Because one of my favorite things that they did with that was what was it? The literals? They called them the literals, right?
Yeah.
There were 3 issues of the literals, 1, 2, and 3. So this was collaboration between Bill Willingham and Lila Sturgis and artists Mark Buckingham, Russ Braun, Tony Atkins, Andrew Pepboy, Jose Marzan Jr., and Dan Green. So it was 9 issues. It was 3 issues of Fables, 3 issues of Jack, and the 3-issue Literals series.
Do you remember the Page sisters?
Yes!
So see, that's what I I don't remember who they are though.
They're the librarians who work for I can tell you exactly who they are. Hillary, Priscilla, and Robin, the Page sisters. They run a prison for Fables. The Page sisters are the senior librarians and assistants to Mr. Revise, who runs the village.
Yeah, there's
They are librarians who capture Fables. Mm-hmm. And yeah. The physical embodiments of story structure, tropes, motives, and the organizing and codifying of stories. Yep.
It gets very meta in this
It
one.
is deeply. It is a deeply meta. It is a
but it was only that crossover, because I never read Jack of Fables.
No, they're all over Jack of Fables. Issue 1, page 6.
I should absolutely read Jack of Fables.
Jack of Fables is a great
because I got to the crossover in Fables and was like, where is this all coming?
Oh, this is also like this book. I will also say that the guide has some great. This is an amazing image of. I don't know if we're going to be able to pull this up, but
Prince Charming.
This is an amazing Prince Charming issue.
Yeah.
A piece of art. And you can see it's this fabulous portrait of him, and then there's little portraits of all the other princesses, and they just say like "scum," "hate you," and "really" with a question mark, and just like.
There was a cover for, after the 2 Cinderella 6-parters, there was another, the next longest spin-off was the 33 issues of Fairest. And this is when they got a number of contributors to come in. So writers for that series, it started with Bill Willingham, then Lila Sturgis, then Lauren, I don't know how to say her name, Bukes? She's a really cool South African novelist who's done more work with Vertigo since. Then Mark Andreyko does a run from that period. Mark Buckingham takes the writing reins for one, with a number, again, of wonderful artists like Barry Kitson, Sean McManus, Phil Jimenez, and Megan Hetrick. So Fairest is tops on my list of ones I need to get to, because it's supposed to be a spotlight for a bunch of the women of the universe, which sounds exactly like my jam, but I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Same.
There's a lot of Fables.
There's a lot of Fables. It's enough that like I think I might only be like 1 or 2 trades behind.
Can I ask a leading question?
Sure.
Please.
Why haven't they made some sort of TV series or movie about this, since it seems like there's just so much and it's so good and it's all public domain? Why hasn't anyone made some sort of television series or a Netflix special or whatever it is that
Amy,
kids make today?
You seem to have
a YouTube show or something.
Here's the history of them attempting to do this. I went a little nuts with my chart, and I started marking down all of the sort of publicly known steps along this unsuccessful journey. This is 2002 when the series begins. This is 2004 when the Henson Company apparently acquired the rights to work on something via WB Films. That didn't happen. This is 2005 when NBC was interested in working on a pilot for the thing that never made it through past that point. This is 2008 when ABC did a put pilot commitment for a Fables adaptation with some talent attached that never happened. This is 2011 when Telltale Games announced they were going to do a game. Amazingly enough, that actually happened.
Yeah.
In 2013, the Telltale game was released, which I'm going to guess, I'm the worst and still haven't played it, but I believe a substantial portion of you guys watching probably encountered this world for the first time in that game. And then there was another round of movie announcements, also in 2013 from WB. 2015, we got an update that Jane Goldman, writer of Stardust and Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class, may be working on a draft. But that was 3 years ago. And in the meantime, both NBC and ABC developed different unrelated fairy tale shows, which, to be fair, lots of people do fairy tale things, and it probably is a coincidence, but comic book fans will never let it go.
So as somebody who's been in this business a long time, there was not a coincidence.
That was not a coincidence.
That was not a coincidence.
Like once upon a time, is Fables. Like it's somebody's straight up Fables, but with
pitch that didn't
the Disney
go through.
versions of those characters, because ABC is owned by Disney. They can do that, but like I remember getting so excited because like this was right as I was coming to the end of reading so many, like really getting deep into Fables. They're like, oh my God, they're going to do a Fables TV show. Oh my God, I really can't wait for that. And then like a couple of years later, like nothing had happened, and they're like, hey, we're doing Once Upon a Time, and I was like, but no, don't do that. I don't want Fables. But don't do that.
So Fables fans are always going to be kind of like that about it.
There's
fact
nothing
that,
more exciting than Fables fans who are upset about canon.
I know,
like
it's so silly.
It's the
There are other
anti-canon.
characters.
It's the anti-canon book that we're like, well, that's not what happened in the. It's not what happened in the book. About what didn't happen in the book.
But, and part of the reason that it has been difficult, I think, is that there are now 150 issues of like all the really great ideas for how to tell this story. They happened. They happened in the story. And so as much as we want to see actors playing them out, they've already done this sort of like most interesting possible version of these versions of the characters. And it's a huge sprawling mythology no one knows how to put into a TV show anyway.
The young version of me would be very excited to see this as a television series, but the 40-something version of me is very content that it was never adapted. is like sometimes the book is better.
I have not, but my friend Mark that I just met tonight, if you're watching Mark at the Starbucks.
Hey, new friend Mark.
Hi, Mark.
That's how he saw me reading that, and he goes, "You getting into Fables?" And I was like, "No, I've actually read pretty much all of it. I'm doing a show about it tonight." And he was like, "Yeah, I read a couple of those. I got hooked on it from the video game."
Yes,
and
thank you,
nice.
Telltale.
Yeah. See, I'm the opposite. I would still love to see I would love to see Stars do it or something. By the way, yes.
Because I know what song I want for the opening.
Tell me more.
They can't do it, but this is what I want. Like, obviously, by the end of the opening, we would get some imagery of maybe the homelands and some fantasy stuff, and it would probably turn orchestral. But here's how I want it to start. We're going through the streets of New York City, and we are hearing...
Normal New York.
Normal New York.
Okay.
And either normal New York or period New York. I haven't quite decided. But what we're hearing is, do you know Ella Fitzgerald's version of A Tisket a Tasket?
Yes.
Think so.
Oh my God.
That is the song of Fables.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
Ella Fitzgerald jazzily singing the children's nursery rhyme, a tisket, a tasket, I lost my yellow basket. And
it very well, actually.
Put it in his pocket. So that would be like the jazz strains of the Fables in New York City. Like, I can't see or hear it, and it will never happen, but that is how I would like.
Why would it not happen?
And let's stop to appreciate that was really good just now. That was actually
good singing too.
Why do we not do karaoke? That's okay.
We should do karaoke.
We should do karaoke.
The Other Door.
I would. Oh my God, The Other Door is the best. The best. I would like to take. May I take your idea and run with it?
Please.
That it starts off with that, but then as you start to see more and more of the characters, the song morphs and kind of starts to fall apart and is maybe a little bit more in minor key and some violins come in, and then it morphs slowly into, as you peel the layers away until it's full-on fantasy. So it goes from urban to fantasy over the course of the song as you go from the outside looking in to the interior of Fables. Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do that. So now, but
maybe the camera zooms down the wishing well for the final, and then Fables.
Yes.
Because you have to go into the Woodland office, into the larger on the inside than the outside business office.
It's going to end up in Bluebeard's house. And it's just going to be.
And who? Bluebird's?
Yeah, Bluebeard's house.
Bluebeard's.
Has a well.
So this book is great.
The book is great. The book is amazing. There's so much depth to it. Another thing that I definitely want to point out, because this is something we all have hills that we want to die, that we're willing to die on.
Yeah.
And this is one of my hills. This book exists because of the notion of public domain.
Okay.
This is a book that couldn't exist without the notion of public domain.
Yes, I'm excited to hear you talk about this.
And public domain is one of those things that is a very complicated and difficult notion. Was the idea of something. The idea that ideas get to a certain age that they demand retirement. This idea that you can only own the idea of something for so long before that idea should be free and available to everyone, to a point at which that any idea becomes available to everybody, or should be available to everybody. And it's a complicated, and it's hundreds of years old that we've been just having the discussion of how long someone should be able to own an idea. Actually, I would go so far as to say versions of public domain and what should be public domain. I think they found legal briefings from the Roman Empire.
That's fascinating, because I know certain versions of it don't arise until they're fighting for, like, Pirates of Penzance invented a lot of copyright law in the mid-1800s.
Yeah, and like that was a lot of our modern stuff began there, and this discussion always there comes down to there's a lot of discussion of making sure that creators can own their ideas long enough to turn a profit off of them. But also now in a world where creators don't necessarily ever own what they create, one of the big arguments, and this was a fascinating conversation that I had with someone about the idea of an extremely short copyright lifespan, of allowing, right now things can live for up to 70, 80 years, and there are certain corporate loopholes that you can make something practically, like, under no uncertain terms of Mickey Mouse ever going to be public domain. Even though by all rights, Mickey Mouse should already be public domain. There's absolutely no reason why. Nobody who created Mickey Mouse is alive and around anymore. Mickey Mouse has served its. There's just no reason for it anymore. That not anybody should be able to do anything with Mickey Mouse. Whereas you can do anything with Snow White, you can do anything with Sleeping Beauty, you can do anything with Jack of Fables, or Jack be Nim Jack, Prince Charming, but. There's definitely this. There's a notion that because of corporate ownership and the idea that corporations can own these ideas and these intellectual properties, we should shorten. There's been a call to like shorten the lifespan of these down to 40 years or 30 years. The notion being that if we had that shortened lifespan for something like Superman is always my favorite example of this, is DC Comics could have bought Superman and owned Superman for 30 years, and they would have made decent amount of money. A very pretty penny, the prettiest of pennies. A penny that could be photographed for pictures.
It's interesting you chose 40 years, because exactly at 40 years the movie gets made and totally changes the game.
Yeah. Well, and you remember that moment of that movie, and one of the fascinating things, of course, were that the creators of Superman at that time, one of which at least was bagging groceries down the block from that film. 40 years in, let's just say, DC can still continue to make Superman. That just because they lose the copyright vanishes doesn't mean you can't stop making it. But the two creators can now launch the original creators' version of Superman that they can now start publishing. And suddenly they have the rights back to their own creation, because those rights don't exist anymore. And we could have gotten, if that copyright had been allowed to expire, in one of the original intentions and notions was that if these things were sold, they could come back again. We could have gotten an extra 20 or 30 years. They could have just been stockpiling stories for the day that it was time to release the Untold Tales of Superman.
I've never thought about the idea of rights going public domain as a roundabout way for creators to get them back.
Yeah, I've never thought of it in those terms.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
But it does place a burden on the creators to sort of have it would depend upon them being in a position to publish their own books and get publicity behind it.
Here's the thing,
and a lot of other factors.
Is if you knew that the creators of Superman had 25 years worth of unpublished work that they were sitting on, I mean, ready to publish the minute it went free.
Would they be able to stockpile it for that time, or would that be illegal?
In theory, as long as you don't publish it, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, if you wrote something 20 years ago and never published it, and it's still yours, and then that thing becomes public domain, you can immediately,
This was an interesting. We've had a lot of conversations with some very smart people, and there have been pluses and minuses to these thoughts. But this is not necessarily a suggestion. This is mostly something that's an interesting piece of intellectual candy to mull over. Is the notion of ultra short copyright.
Well, so interesting theological thing to throw in at you. There's, if I'm remembering my scripture correctly,
sorry.
There's oh God, is it I think there's something called the Year of Jubilee. I'm trying to remember everything.
I love ever since Streets of the Vampire got weird, but I'm into it.
Yeah, Jubilation Lee.
The Year of Jubilation Lee.
I think I'm forgetting one of the terms, but in Jewish law, it was something like every 50 years, every single person that was in debt to a family was released from that debt, And this is all also based in like the structures of their society, but the idea being that every 50 years, every family gets their property back, all debts are released,
cleared.
all debts are cleared.
That's a great theory.
And it's a hard reset button. And according to records, it was done once and then never again.
It seems like such a good idea.
But like
because if you know it's only going to last 50 years, you're not going to overinvest in.
There's something called the Year of Jubilee.
People's economic bondage on that level.
There was some, like, I think it was like this. Oh, it was this. There was the Sabbath year was every 7 years. I can't remember what they would do there, but every 50 year, every seven of those, essentially 49th year, 50th year, there was something where like if you were a family and you were having a hard time making ends meet, you could sell your farm to another family, and then you could continue to live on your farm, but you now worked your farm for that other family.
Until that 50-year point.
But at that 50-year point, that family would say, hey, God's blessing upon you. Here's your family's title back.
Thank you for 50
Here's
years.
everything back to you. Thank you for 50 years of service. We've reaped enough from you. Now go make it on your own. And it was
that's a very clever idea.
There are some theologians who believe that like that was one of Christ's missions, was because Christ didn't come to like establish a church. Christ came to reform Judaism.
Yeah.
And that was some of the stuff that some theologians believe he was trying to say, like, hey, this thing back in Leviticus, we're not doing it, and maybe we should re-explore that because that's breaking all these anyway.
So the reason theology, but the notion that like that we could have been getting like all of these, and like, or this idea of this notion of fables, like multi-universe superheroes is a thing that we could have if they were just allowed to leave copyright, which is such a fact. It's almost too much to think about.
Difference, like if you also abolish copyright law, then after 50 years, can I just republish authors' works and not pay them?
No, because the works themselves are owned.
Okay.
The character, the intellectual thought of the character is not, but the works themselves are always owned. The books are the books.
But I mean, even the books eventually pass into public domain unless Disney succeeds in abolishing the idea of it.
Well, Disney although it's an interesting thing, like things like Peter Pan did not. Which is interesting. Peter Pan is a very interesting. It's used with permission. It's owned by a hospital.
Really?
Yeah, a children's hospital, I want to say, actually owns the rights to Peter Pan in perpetuity. In perpetuity.
How?
He gifted it to them, I believe, and it's a special thing, but only through the British Commonwealth. And like again, copyright laws are by country also. They're not like universal. It's not a world law yet, although that would be cool. We should get there. But the notion that, like, the use of the characters themselves, that you could actually just write a Captain America story or a Black Widow story and publish it, but it would not be a Marvel book, but it would be a Black Widow story that you
My example is always like, is this thing more like Mickey Mouse or more like King Arthur, and what makes them different?
Exactly.
Because we've all accepted that, like, anyone can tell stories about King Arthur, and nobody owns King Arthur.
And nobody owns Cinderella, but there are certain aspects of Cinderella that are now owned by Disney because they have copyrighted certain notions of a public domain character. Woof. I know this is only treading slightly far from what this is, because this is such a perfect example of why the notion of allowing things to be part of the common, what would I call it, subconscious treasures of a culture are really important.
Shared cultural wealth.
This is the product. This is a beautiful, beautiful egg laid by a very, very, very wonderful chicken. And this is a story that wouldn't exist if people had decided that if Disney had, and I'm sure they have tried very hard to figure out how they could make sure that Cinderella and Snow White were theirs and only theirs. I'm not faulting them for that, but this is something that could only exist because we've decided that these characters belong to everybody.
Yeah.
And this is a giant mythology of things that belong to everybody. That is my point. Yeah. That is my hill. I'm dying on it now.
These books, which are a specific form, which we're all happy with being protected, that was created by specific individuals, but they were channeling this massive world, and then like they've now been added to by more folks. So like the Telltale people who did their game as a prequel. It's not an adaptation of these. It features characters that you recognize, like Bigby and Snow, but it takes place beforehand, which they've now adapted into comics.
Yeah, there's a comic based off the video game, based off of a comic, based off of public domain fairy tales from the 18th and 17th
The second half.
century.
This is where it got increasingly difficult to explain to people what they were looking at. But this is the 16-issue comic book adaptation of the video game based on the comics, based on the shared heritage of public domain fairy tales. Yes. And they're doing a sequel to that game.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, the T Boys question.
Hey.
Yeah, bring
As
it.
someone who has only played The Wolf Among Us and has not yet gotten into the comics, which issue trade paperback should I start
Here's
with?
the great thing about Fables. There's an easy answer.
Start
with number one.
Start at the beginning, and when you get to the end, stop.
Well, it's not that easy all the way through because
It
you
gets a
will
little
find
weird.
there's a lot
You
of
have a
reading
chart.
orders. Like we're bringing this back. There's a lot of folks online who will say things like, they'll let you know sort of here's the point at which you're safe to start reading Jack. It's like issue 35 or so of Fables.
I don't know why.
He sat on his phone, and now it's.
No, it's talking.
It's not just talking; it's lecturing him.
It's my audio book, The Story of Philosophy. Sorry.
Nerd.
You beautiful nerd.
Sorry.
It's so good.
I'm trying to learn about more philosophy.
That's amazing.
That's how I get to work every day. It's either that or the Secret History of the World. I did, or more Lovecraft.
Or more Lovecraft.
It's one of those
It's a
three.
fun combo, yeah.
Yeah, no, good. It's good for you.
So there are folks who will write sort of guides on like, if you want to read all of it, here's a way to. We don't know anything about the philosophy of keeping on topic, Chief. What show do you think you're watching?
All
what
topics
show
are
do
the
you think
same
you're-
topic. There is only one topic, and that's the topic of life and death in this universe.
Yeah, so like my
Moving
phone
right
was like, I
along.
sat on my phone and it started going off. Sorry.
It's real good.
Which is a lot like Fables.
But the good news is, before any of the spin-offs arrive, you've got a huge chunk of Fables to go ahead and get addicted, at which time it will not at all bother you to start looking into the various reading guides to figure out how you... Some people will hop between whatever is being published at the same time, or you can go all the way up to a cutoff point. So, for instance, they're going to cross over right here, so you just read up until that point, and then you're ready for the crossover,
I'm
right?
always a fan of the story arc by story arc, where like once you have parallel timelines where like I just will read like the 6 issues of this one story, then pop over for the 6 issues of this story, and then pop over. Yeah, I'm like any time that like we're getting close to like a Supergirl Flash crossover on the CW, I'll just take the chunk and I'll take the other chunk and then watch the crossover and then take the chunk.
Same.
Yeah.
And these are really well these are split up very well.
They're very well structured.
Like it's like 6 to 7 issues a piece essentially. And like Vertigo did a great job of like packaging them like in like the little one-offs and every once in a while that they have. Like it's really easy to get into. That's why it's such a gateway comic. It's so easily digestible and put together.
Terribly accessible. And I've covered the table with the paperbacks, but they are now they've now put out hardcover versions of a lot of these, where you will usually get 2 books in one hardcover. So watch out for the numbering if you're mixing and matching. But they are nice deluxe editions, slightly bigger, slightly prettier ways to collect the entire series.
The same is true on Comixology, where they've got this is one of my few problems with Comixology is the way that they do bundling. It's a
little bit.
Yeah, it's the only thing. It's my last real complaint of the process, where you have the single issues that you can buy, you can have the graphic novels that you can buy, or then you have the collected editions that you can buy. And like the pricing of what's actually cheaper, because it's all just a digital file, is a little iffy. And I think the graphic novels are the cheapest way to go, not the big one. The big ones are actually more expensive to buy a single file with 2 graphic novels than 2 graphic novels. But single issues might be more your style, because then it's less to download individually onto your phone, so you can actually just take up and down less data.
Yeah.
And they do a bundle of, you can buy like all of the single issues for like 15% off.
Yeah.
These are not cheap books on Comixology, and we do apologize for that. Normally, we do like to cover stuff that's on sale.
Yeah.
But maybe someday, probably not.
So we've got a lot of questions from chat. Do you mind if I throw a couple out?
Bring them. Hi, chat.
I'm going to also, let's see, I'm trying to hide relevant bits, but I did want to show off a little bit of Mark Buckingham art.
Oh, God, I know.
A thing that becomes a signature as the series goes on, and is one of these reasons that you always know you're looking at Fables, is that he embellishes pages in a sort of a storybook way.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. so that you'll find interesting things on the top and bottom and interesting ways of laying out the page that give you hints about what's happening in the world.
Yeah, the filigree. Oh, God.
I'm trying to find non-spoilery ones because
it's going to be very hard because it is a spoilery book.
Well, but like, don't just like, I mean, this is just like a random page, but like you get like the mirrors on the side.
This became a signature, is that there are these side panels which contain story elements as well.
Oh, here.
Let's find a good...
You can see this mirror here, and on the same page there's this mirror here, and you can see that there's sort of the whole framing. The framing of the book is very paralleled.
And I'm going to block out a lot of the middle of this, but you're on Boy Blue here, so you've got trumpets down the side.
Oh, God, the Boy Blue trumpets.
Yep. And it's very subtle as you read through. Here's roses for a certain character. Everything is spoilers.
It is the problem with Fables is everything is a spoiler because every character comes with expectations.
And what's great also is that the book is very unafraid to make big moves.
Oh man!
In a way
that's one of my favorite things about it.
They blow the stuff up all the time.
Here's a status quo. Just kidding.
Yeah. Well, and like it's a book that is not afraid. And I don't feel like this is a spoiler, but it's a book that's not afraid to kill characters. Like it's
not at all. It's not afraid to really.
Well, that person was supposed to die.
They will Game of Thrones you like.
Yeah. So don't get too attached to characters.
Not unless you're willing for a good cry.
Yeah, there's a couple times where I think I probably like got at the very least misty-eyed.
Oh man, that whole thing at the farm, you know, the thing I'm talking about. I had to reread it twice because I was yelling at my book.
Yep.
I was yelling. Yep. No.
I skipped the second. I purposely did not. I skipped the second and third book and skipped just right to the fourth.
No, you don't want to read that. I don't feel good.
No.
But it's so good.
It's so good. It's so good.
It don't feel good, but it's so good.
It's so good.
I almost put in a wonderful. Yeah, it would. I will not describe the spoiler I decided against including in Fables. What other questions?
We had a long talk about what we were going to be willing to talk about and what we weren't. Like we had a game plan before coming.
Should we plan like long in advance? Like, have we considered doing spoiler specials or like devoting?
Let's say 10 years from now, when we're all older and we have families, let's all get back together and Sorry.
And talk about Fables?
Let's talk about Fables.
Just talk about
Fables. Just 10 years from today. Let's get back together.
So, Miss Sunflower 94, question.
Hi, Miss Sunflower.
Hi, Miss Sunflower.
Hi, Miss Sunflower. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite character or favorite folk character that is in Fabletown?
I mean, like, favorite character in the books or favorite character, not from the book? I mean, like, you know, from, like, what they did.
Favorite, I can't believe they included it, or favorite person as presented in this?
I'm sad
only
that the Shock-Headed Peter characters did not show up.
The who?
As far as I know, there were none of the Shock-Headed Peter Fables.
Get your encyclopedia out.
I'm going to check. I don't recall any of the German, like, the heavy German folklore kid, like the Scissorman, the Tall Tailor, or, like, Shock-Headed Peter, or... the cats.
Oh, I have one of my favorite characters from folklore is Baba Yaga.
Oh, Baba Yaga's great.
And she is...
No spoilers!
Like, no spoilers, but
damn.
She's all over various...
presence that lives up to the kind of role that she should have here.
Baba Yaga is actually on page 19 of this book. Sorry. God, I don't even know where to... There's so much. I'm like literally looking at the list, and it's. I love Paul Bunyan and Babe. I think that I'm a big fan of the story of Paul Bunyan and Babe, and I love how they were the Blue Ox. Babe the Ox.
Yeah, Babe the Blue Ox.
Yeah. I love Babe. Babe.
Hey, Babe.
I will go to bat for some protagonisty characters, and choosing my words carefully. I absolutely love Snow White and Rose Red. Two of my favorite characters from stories. Oh, she's amazing.
Oh,
she's amazing.
She's one of my favorite characters in the book.
Oh, Frau Totenkinder is amazing.
Yeah.
She's real good.
She's so good.
You'll meet her before you meet her. It's good.
Boy,
such a good way to say that.
Man, wow.
And it's one of those things where, like, I don't think she's supposed to be aspirational, but you can't read it and not be like, yeah.
And like you read the Jack of Fables, so you know about Jack and Jill and all the different Jacks, and like like in Jack Frost.
Even
and
Jack, I love. Yeah, everyone's the worst, but everyone is so lovable. Snow and Rose are very interesting because they it's. I'm not always happy with their dynamic, but I'm always invested in it.
Yeah.
As someone who is close with my sisters and does not have a similar sister and brother, but
my
doesn't have the same what?
My sister tolerates me, so you know.
They have a sort of a rivalry that we dig deeper into over and over again. Full disclosure, I still haven't finished the actual main series because I got very distracted with other research for this. But when I discovered this and binged through, I'm about 2/3 of the way through. So take everything I say with a grain of salt in case everybody turns into real jerks.
They don't.
I mean, they start out as real jerks for the most part, but they're so lovable. There are 22 volumes of Fables.
Oh man, I'm remembering all these characters.
And now we're just distracted with the characters.
The little match girl.
I love, without spoilers, I love the adversary.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mustard Pot Pete.
Sorry.
Barleycorn Girls?
Ba-goop.
Yeah.
Yep. Boop, bop.
Yeah.
Beep, boop, boop.
Which is a story guest illustrated by Linda Medley, which I love.
Yeah?
She is the artist of Castle Waiting. And she illustrates the story where we first get the tale of the Barleycorn Girls. If it suddenly looks, she has this woodcut style, and it's just perfect. It's one of those times where a guest artist is brought in because
do you remember what volume that was in?
It's in
issue 8. Well, John Barleycorn's first appearance is issue 18, page 2, panel 4.
So that would be the third book.
3?
That's John Barleycorn.
Yeah, it's going to be that though.
And of course, for those of you who don't know, in medieval English and Scottish myth, John Barleycorn is the personification of barley as the grain from which liquors are made. In the folk song John Barleycorn, which is a very good folk song, circa 1620, Barleycorn is subject to a series of attacks, culminating in a gruesome death. Since Barleycorn is the personification of liquor, his death allows the cultivation of barley and the production of liquor.
Well, I did not know that.
It's a song about killing John
Real
Barleycorn,
sad.
but the way that you kill John Barleycorn is actually a step-by-step process of how you turn barley into beer. And that's what they do to John Barley is they cut him off at the knees, and then they they do, but it's like the reaping of the barley, and it's a whole story about.
Is this a thing I haven't gotten to yet? Because when you meet him, it's just about
that's actually the song of John Barleycorn is what you do to barley to make it beer, but as a murder.
That's actually incredibly cool. Encoding cultural knowledge in that way is fantastic. Where is my volume 3? Why don't I have a volume 3?
I also love Buffkin.
Buffkin's amazing.
So Buffkin, for those of you who don't know, is the flying monkey. If you remember the Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz, Buffkin is the name of one of the flying monkeys, and he is kind of he kind of helps keep
Briars.
The mayor's office in order. He's kind of like a page boy for the mayor's office.
Mr. Brump. Bumpkin, first appearance, issue 1, page 7, panel 1.
Yeah.
One of the flying monkeys from The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, 1900.
Oh, God. I'm just going to show off this
He's a
random
librarian.
page. This is a random page of the Mouse Police.
God, the Mouse Police.
Oh, that's right.
Which once again shows off the layout. You can see that it gives you all these hints that you're in storybook land, even though the art itself here is sort of realistic. That you get a lot of wonderful information in the. There's a sort of here's where you are.
There's a lot of Oz characters.
And then we get to God. This was so good.
Oh. Yeah, as far as I can tell, I can't find any of the Shock-Headed Peter, this Stunton.
And without, I'm just going to flash this because I don't want to give any spoilers at all. Oh my God, that's so awesome.
Yeah, show it.
Okay.
Just show it.
Oh, that's so cool. I can't believe she did that. That's awesome.
This is the Linda Medley drawn
that's so fun.
guest issue.
And a lot of these, a lot of the trades will have a page like this. I'm just going to flash it because there's a lot of spoilers on it.
Oh, the cow jumped over the moon.
It says, Frau Tottenkinder and Bigby and Boy Blue. It's just got a lot of the characters on there. And it kind of gives a very quick little recap of who they are. So, it's a very helpful little tool.
And again, every cover, my God, every
For
cover.
the majority of the series, James
cover.
Jean does the covers. Later on, other folks come on board. Let me see here. What was the original series covers? How long does he stay on? Let me look for a later volume here.
It is deep. What other questions, by the way, while we're
How Ruiz, I'm going to get this wrong, but how Ruiz does cover art later on. Everyone they assemble for these books is amazing. Oh, God.
Dish and Spoon. Do you remember Dish and Spoon?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, a lot of great Mother Goose characters.
So question from Stargazer 1977. Which classic mythological system or pantheon would you like to see a Fables treatment of?
Ooh.
Like for this, for Stargazer, Sumerian, Babylonian would be their first choice.
Awesome.
Orishas.
Awesome.
Who?
The Orishas of the South American Orishas would be fucking awesome. But I've always wanted to see them done with some real love and respect. So
I feel like Stargazer stole mine. Like I would love to see like Babylonian or Assyrian, like that sort of like ancient Mesopotamian.
Marduk with 6 eyes running around.
Yeah,
all right.
Zoroastrian
I would love
sort of
to
mythology.
see what they make of the special power that they have as some of the very oldest of the Fables.
Yeah. Yeah, like, are they more powerful because they were some of the first, like, or they were the first?
And again, the Germanic fairy tales are also one that I'm a big fan of the German folklore fairy. Of like, again, the Shock-Headed Peter stories are ones that I like. I'm amazed. I just assumed that I hadn't read the books that the Shock-Headed Peter characters were in, but apparently they didn't ever go into them because
Well,
those
it
are
is
some.
interesting because the encyclopedia comes out in late 2013,
Maybe
and the
they got
series
to
keeps
it.
running till 2015, and there were the 12 issues of Ever After that came out in 2016 and 2017. So it's possible that there is stuff that we're not realizing is in there.
It feels like such a natural. I mean, like it feels like such an easy jump to make with it because they are such. And I will bring you some of them because they're so much fun to read. And I even got them in musical form because the Tiger Lilies did a whole set of them. They did an opera based on these stories, but they're so violent and dark just on their lonesome, like, and that I think they would have fit so well with these characters. It's just really vicious, mean fables. Just terrible.
Question from Alpha,
Kill children.
Game Wizard 001. Out of all the villains that have shown up in the series, who is your favorite and which surprised you the most?
Well,
Careful
I mean,
with spoilers.
Well, here's something I'm going to say is the villains. It's not really about the villains in this book. Like the villains are usually not even necessarily that villainous. It's mostly that the heroes are just not that good, and the villains are just kind of like so much of what goes wrong in these books is that the heroes are all just kind of have their own shit going on.
Well, the heroes certainly get in their own way a lot, but the villains are still, they are bad.
Yeah, they're tragic.
The villains are,
They're bad. I'd say
I don't know that they're
tragic.
One is.
And there's definitely, and there are people who are as the, like drawn bad, as they say.
Yes.
But I mean, there's a lot. I mean, like the heroes are there are no pure heroes. Snow White is the closest to like a pure hero in this book, and she's pretty vicious. I mean,
I don't know. I feel like Bigby is
some damage as well.
I feel like Bigby's pretty like
Bigby is.
He's very much a reformed.
Oh, he's a good guy for a carnivore. But he's a fucking carnivore.
Oh my God, that's the best.
Yeah.
He's a good guy for a carnivore.
He is, I mean, like not an omnivore. He is a good guy for a carnivore.
Yeah. That's fair.
I got very interested in the villains.
Killed a lot of people.
In Jack of Fables at the Mr. Revise.
Oh, Mr. Revise is fascinating.
A wonderful idea. I will say, like, the less said about it, the better, but the confrontation with the adversary and the developing story there
is fascinating.
Is just unforgettably good. It's one of those reasons that makes us all be like, oh, okay, maybe do adapt it.
There's a story arc. Boy Blue's journey especially is
yes, Boy Blues
one of the most tragic things that and of betrayal and pain and loss that just it's fucking heartbreaking. It's fucking heartbreaking.
Your hair's blue.
Yeah, my hair is blue.
So,
like my soul.
if I may throw this out there, just because I want to.
Yes.
This is one of my favorites. Because Pinocchio.
Pinocchio.
In this, so without getting into too much of the story, they have learned a weakness that they're going to exploit of a particular villain, and to do so, they have to put together a super team, like the strongest of the Fables, and they've got to figure out who that is. And Pinocchio sort of elects himself to be that, and when you see him, he comes rolling up in a wheelchair, and they're like, "What? Your legs were? What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, what I've learned from reading all my comic books, because remember,
and they establish immediately that he and Blue and their buddy Flycatcher are the comic book nerds, and they played all these beautiful background gags throughout the series.
Oh God, I forgot how good
that
this
starts from Volume 1.
But he says all the great leaders of teams are always in like a wheelchair, and he's immediately referencing Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
The professor's name in Doom Patrol, whose name I'm suddenly forgetting. Obviously Professor Xavier, but also
he's called just the professor like often enough.
He has a name though. What's
he
his
does.
name?
I don't know. Just call him the head in the box usually, because of that.
It's really frustrating me that I can't remember.
I know
his name. I just read Doom Patrol like 2 weeks ago too.
No one likes him.
No one likes him, but like
I know that's why I can never remember his name.
He's clearly referencing both of those characters, and then he goes on to like help out. Like, no, you've got to have this costume. You've got to have this name.
This is some Kirby motherfucking shit happening right here. I'm just like saying like this is some Kirby. There's a guy in a suit of armor, and there's a demon, and that is like, I mean, like look at that.
And look at that.
Look at all that, and like right on the side there. Oh.
Yeah, so that's one of my favorites, just because it plays with superhero tropes.
Oh, and my favorite Ginger.
In like such a fun way. And what's really amazing about it is that's volume 7 of like how many books now?
Oh,
that's
like,
volume.
I think it's 7.
16.
Oh, 16. Oh, well, never mind. I was wrong.
Out of 22.
Out of 22. So I was wrong. Which one? I was just looking at 7 or 10, whatever.
There's a lot.
There's a lot of Fables. So they have announced a sequel game they said they're working on, and for now the publication has stopped. But like you never know when one of these various announcements is going to kick back in. Thank you, Niles Calder.
Thank you, Curious Face.
Where is Niles Calder? Is the one-pagers.
Niles, thank you, Niles.
Yep.
In Gerard's Doom Patrol. Yeah. So I know there was a cover out today. There's a Cave Carson Swamp Thing crossover.
I know. I downloaded it. I haven't read it yet.
It's a picture of the DC multiverse map with a coffee stain on it.
Yeah.
And as Jody says, like that was apparently a thing from early meetings that Gerard Way said, like, you know, this is where Young Animal fits into DC. We're like the coffee stain on the map of the DC multiverse.
Oh my God, so
Beautiful.
good.
Okay.
I just found a random page of just like of the porcupine. The chicken and the gingerbread man like walking around with each other, and they're just gonna go find some pies. And like the gingerbread man's just like, it's always about pies with you two. Just need to satisfy our sweet tooth somehow, Mr. Ginger. Otherwise, we might have to settle for gingerbread. It's barbarians. I've fallen among barbarians. This is what you get. His gingerbread jokes. Like, what more could a human being ask for?
So let's see. There's also a number of original graphic novels.
There's also like
that's a straight-up novel, which I haven't read.
This is a straight. I know this is like the size of a brick, and there's very few pictures, which are baffling to me.
It's a book.
What
I know this sounds crazy.
Book? Like what flavor?
Eat it. I don't know.
I don't know. It's like coffee. There's no such thing as just normal coffee. It's got to be some kind of. Is it a novella? Is it a? Yeah, is it based on a movie?
It's a book. It's
an adaptation of something? No, it's...
Technically, it's a novel based on comics, based on public domain fairy tales.
Peter and Max, and I think I see a Pied Piper on here, so that's exciting.
So that comes in here in late 2009, just before the Cinderella kickoffs. But you get graphic novels like 1001 Nights of Snowfall, where you get a lot of big backstory stuff.
Yeah.
The Werewolves of the Heartland, which
Fairest and
there's a Fairest original graphic novel that's a mystery that they did. The encyclopedia comes out. Peter Max comes out. The collection of covers comes out.
There is a collection of just the covers. Yes, that's a thing.
The covers are that beautiful.
They are that pretty that they deserve their own book.
Some of the prettiest covers.
That and the Sandman covers are just like
they're
so
beautiful. Like they're just works of
James
art.
G left us to be a fine art guy, which is fine, and it's fine.
I'm also going to point out. I'm also going to point out that the Peter Mance Fables novel has a quote on the cover: "A fast-paced, witty, and fun from start to finish by George R.R. Martin." And you think this is what you've been reading instead of writing the next book. No, this is. I take your time. It's fine, but. It's nice to know that this is what you're absorbing in the meantime. I hope that this influences everything that you do. Yeah, this is, I mean, like, you forget that this is like a micro-universe that just exists inside the Vertigo universe.
Yeah, it's so easy to forget that this exists, but once you start getting into it, you're like, how did I forget? I felt bad that I had forgotten how great this was. And like started rereading it, I was like, oh man, I want to read all of it now.
Yeah,
it is interesting because like
Lucifer.
This was still coming out for the first like 7 years that I worked at the shop or something like that, and it is interesting because it has been an absolutely perennial seller for us. But it's one of those interesting examples of like coming out almost every month for 13 years. It just built and built and built. And so people were coming in for the trades and recommending it to each other and reading it in class and giving it to friends. And I would be really curious to see Vertigo's numbers on this because we still sell Fables.
Sure.
But like,
amazing.
Now that it's been a couple years since there was a lot of new stuff, it has slowed down some.
Yeah.
In terms of like how often people are handing it to each other. And I'm really curious because this work has a real chance of having one of those long tails where people will keep recommending it to each other for years and years and years
and it's so perennial. It doesn't require it. Like time can move forward, and the story is going to say the same, more or less.
Well, and one of the things that's kind of interesting is that like when you get into like DC or Marvel, like those characters are all so well established now that they are fairy tales and like mythic characters all unto themselves. But by taking public domain characters that we all have known from childhood and putting them in their own universe, essentially like they kind of created a pocket Marvel or DC universe where it's like we have like this nostalgic connection to these characters already, and there's a rich mythology that already exists for all of these things. So there's an immediate world to play with. So like, it's kind of a brilliant move, and it's like almost dumb that no one thought of it until, you know, like, or in this capacity, because like
the closest I could think of was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but that was a very different vibe.
Yeah,
to say the least. I feel like that's the gentlest way.
It's a long tradition of reinterpreting, but what is very interesting about like the time and place that he did it was that he had a company supportive enough to like let him do his weird take, let it build for this long without demanding that it be anything else, and then let it expand and let it expand and let it grow and let other people pick up the story and this, and so that like when Willingham was done with it, there's only been one real follow-up series since then. So unlike Superman or other things, it was not necessarily intended for other people to jump in and do their own thing, although I assume eventually like these stories themselves will be part of our shared cultural heritage that you can play on. But like, it is an interesting look at how one guy's idea can become a pocket universe.
Yeah.
Which is just so cool.
And the storytelling is so rich and so good, and
I'm
the
really
characters
looking
are so
forward to
well
seeing
developed
people delve
and
into
like
this.
upended and redeemed. Oh, it's just such good storytelling.
Big B, man. Big B.
Big B.
Big B.
Mark Buckingham. I like it.
All right. Well, should we do our 5-minute?
Do we have a winning topic?
Do we? We do.
We've got 10 minutes left.
We have 10 minutes left.
We've got a 5-minute topic.
We only have 10 minutes to do a 5-minute topic.
Shoot.
And of course, the timer is broken.
So Liz is just going to shout at us.
Liz is apparently our god now.
She's our god now.
I'm going to do a thing on my phone.
You already were.
So,
are you
okay, tell me when to start, and I'll put the timer up.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. The winning topic comes from Slippy Dude. Topic: you're in your own fable in Fabletown. Who are your allies? Who are you avoiding? Who are you taking home tonight?
Oh,
so
no.
While you guys think about it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday Club. This is our Wednesday Club 5-minute one-shot. If you're watching us here, go watch our show on Geek and Sundry's Twitch channel on 7 p.m. every Wednesday night. And now we're going to do the topic, which we just announced. Go.
Well, good Lord, keep me away from Prince Charming.
Yeah, no. God, no.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't be my type, but like, he's too slippery. I don't know. He would be
I don't trust him.
He would come at me with the sort of like, I know I'm not your type and you're much too smart to ever fall for me, and I'd be like, yeah, and then somehow I'd be like, how did I just buy you dinner? How did that happen? So that, first of all, my allies would be like Buckingham for sure.
Oh yeah.
I would probably attempt to put the moves on Boy Blue, but like if I were also a teenager way.
Yeah, no, I feel that. That's fair. I've got to say I have a weird affinity. I know that she's kind of a mess, and I don't want to give anything away, but man, I love Dorothy. Dorothy is just great. I love the whole thing that they did with her, and she seems like such a my perfect idea of just a bad idea on every conceivable level. I love the bad idea characters in these books, so I would just
probably the real true love is Rose, but like that's
Rose. I mean, we all love Rose. We're all there with you. Everybody loves Rose.
Who, by the way, Mark Buckingham says eventually was modeled to look like his wife. Like they have the same hair color or something, and it was just like that's the cutest thing I've ever heard. Okay.
I would like to think eventually that I would just like late at night have cocktails with Big B. I feel like I would be a cocktail friend. It would be like scotch and a piano and like a really good piano player.
Yeah, like go to a cigar lounge with Big B Wolf and just like hang out, get like a
hang out, talk to Pinocchio, just chill.
See, so like Pinocchio.
Pinocchio, Big B, Ocean's 11 vibe.
Yeah, like Pinocchio would be my ally. He'd be my hangout. He'd be my hangout friend. But Clara, I forgot about Clara, but I cheated. I looked at this book a little bit.
Sure.
Clara would be my absolute ally. Clara is a raven, if I remember correctly, the bird she is, but she is formerly a fire-breathing dragon.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I mean you learned that like pretty early on.
Yeah.
So Clara would be my ally.
Okay.
But,
so that's your ally. Who are you avoiding? And who are you taking home? We've got 2 minutes and 15 seconds, and I need these answers.
Yeah. Who am I taking home? If I remember correctly, Little Red Riding Hood.
Man.
I don't know if there's anything you can say that isn't a spoiler.
Yeah.
I know.
There's nothing you can say that isn't a spoiler.
Just Little Red Riding Hood is who I'd take home.
Cinderella, man. I don't know. Maybe. She's too cool. She's too cool. Cindy's too cool.
I'm gonna take home Flycatcher.
Oh,
yeah, of course.
Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah, you can take home Flycatcher.
There's a lot of boys in this universe. God, who am I avoiding? Bluebeard weirds me out.
Oh,
I don't trust that guy. I don't trust that guy. He's got some. He's too shifty. He's too shifty. He's too shifty.
I probably am initially avoiding Reynard the fox, and then somehow much like Prince Charming, you would get under my skin, but I would not mind with Reynard. We would become buddies.
I would know to avoid Jack because he's no good. He's no good.
Jack would be delightful.
Jack's the bad idea friend. He's like, you're great around, but like 2 days after, he's like on your couch, he's eating all your food, and the cops show up. No.
We have 53 seconds.
God. I would avoid Baba Yaga.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Probably for the best.
Yeah, I would avoid Baba Yaga. Honest John, I don't know why I don't want to be around Honest John.
Really?
I don't know why. Like I know he's a trusted advisor, but like there's something about that guy that just, I feel like Honest is like ironic.
Yeah? But like in fairy tales,
Rustles your lariat, so to speak.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
20 seconds.
I would stay away from Jack also.
Jack's no good.
Yeah.
I would hang out with Jack. It would end badly.
That would end very badly.
But we would have adventures.
One. That would be the end of you.
Then you go to prison.
That's true.
If you didn't die.
I think that's our call. I think
it's so hard to talk about this with.
I know there's too much.
There's too much.
There's too much, but we also like
spoilers.
saying anything is spoilers.
Everything is a spoiler.
Welcome to Fables, where everything's a spoiler.
Yay!
Even though they are the oldest stories in the world, we desperately don't want to ruin them for you. That's what I love about this book. Is it's like you already know who all of these characters are, and everything that happens will surprise you.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's every single page is like, what?
Your eyebrow goes up.
So thank you for watching. Again, Wednesday Club is 7 p.m. every Wednesday night on Geek and Sundry's Twitch channel or on Alpha. If you're watching us on YouTube, I am Matt Key.
I'm Taliesin Jaffe.
And I'm Amy Dallen.
Thanks for watching.
But we still have you guys for a couple more minutes.
Now that we've made our YouTubes.
So yeah, we have to meet back here. Please shame me for not having actually finished the series, even though I was lead on this episode. I'm sorry, I knew it was coming, but
There's
then I got...
a lot.
There is. We do not shame for not reading on this show. There is no shame for not reading on this show.
It applies to other people. It doesn't apply to me. That's how that works.
You're already the best of us. There's no winning.
But I am very excited to have so many more of these stories to dig into. Let's show off a volume of Ferris, just because we haven't really
where's okay, I see one right over there. There we are.
I made a mess.
Actually, here, I love this mess. This is exciting. Oh, come here. Oh, there's also one with mild nudity, but I will use that one later. It's okay. It's a great cover. It reminds me of a...
So that's a Fables volume and a Ferris volume. Lots of good stuff in these.
Camelot. I know.
This one is called Of Mice and Men. It's one hell of a tale. Thank you to the editor or assistant editor who was responsible for that.
It's a very punny book as well. What are we doing next week, by the way, since we're here?
Next week, I am very excited. We are going to have Brian Compton, aka B-Comp.
B-Comp.
He's one of the main live programming guys over at Nerdist.
Yeah.
Produces Alpha Comic Book Club, which I was on last week, and it was super fun. He is coming on our show next week to talk about one of his favorite writers, Mark Waid.
Mark Waid.
Mark Waid.
Steve Holtz.
Mark what?
Mark Waid. I want a Steve Holtz. Mark Waid. You just want to you want a Steve Holtz, Mark Waid.
I love you. So he'll be on next week. So go read all the Mark Waid that you can.
He's currently writing Captain America. He did a wonderful run with Chris Samnee on Black Widow. He did my favorite Daredevil run, probably, which is saying something.
And he wrote The Flash that made me fall in love with The Flash.
You and a lot of people. He defined Flash for a generation, basically.
And he did Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
He wrote a little book
called Kingdom Come, which was like, hey, so the 90s are a little rough. Maybe we bring it back to the old school comics. Maybe we do, maybe.
JLA Tower of Babel.
Oh, yeah.
Was that him?
That was him.
Apparently. I know. He was in the B-Comp was in the dining room telling me what he was going to bring up.
That was him.
I was like, whoa.
Mark Waid was the one who's like, yeah, Batman's got a contingency for everything, sure.
Yeah, it's a fascinating and great story, and it was like a little Grant Morrison. There was a little Wade Morrison crossover there because they switched Flash and JLA. We're going to get into it next week. But
we'll get into it next week. But Mark Waid is one of the better writers, I think, at least in my opinion.
Hardest working writer I love the hardest working writer.
He's like a really nice guy.
I honestly wouldn't know, but I would assume because his stuff is good.
I had some friends at Groundlings who knew him through Golden Apple, and they helped him move. Like he put out like an ad over at Golden Apple, like I need help moving, and like 10, 15 fanboys like all showed up, got free pizza, and helped him move.
I'm glad they didn't rob him blind. That seems like a place I could go. I know, I'm like a weird old lady, but
Golden Apple shoppers tend to be pretty sedate.
They
were
got like some
nerds, and
free
he's
comic
Mark.
books
Can you imagine what's in his house?
I can't imagine. I was like, why did you not tell me of this move? I would have been there too.
Strange things
happen. I met him on very brief occasions, and he has been super, super lovely.
I'm excited.
And yeah.
I have some good Flash stories, so it'll be fun.
Good. Excellent. All right. Please send us more of your Fables thoughts and questions and which versions you love, which versions
thank you.
Thank you so much for writing in. This was wonderful.
This was wonderful, and stay tuned for a very special episode of Five. Where you can send your letters to
the Wednesday Club at geekandsundry.com.
The Wednesday Club at geekandsundry.com.
I was helping.
I was helping too.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who was sending us good wishes today. We have something pretty special planned for episode number 52, which we're coming up on.
It's going to be great.
But happy 1 year today.
Apparently?
1 year today.
Is that really?
I think so. That's what the chat is saying.
Happy.
Liz is saying no, but the chat is saying yes.
1 year.
Happy roughly a year of the show. We're going to do
approximately a year.
Thing to celebrate, and we love you all for being with us. Stay tuned for Weave. Becca's going to GM. It's going to be amazing. TPK. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Same Wednesday time.
Same Wednesday
channeling. Bye.
Bye, guys.